YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with another episode of Terrible Take Tuesday, taking a look at some pretty terrible takes from around the NFL world sent in by you guys. If you want to send in a take that you find for next week's episode, whatever episode it may be in the future, you go to our Twitter at Goathouse NFL. There's a link down below. You can send it there, whether it's you're mentioning me or if it's a DM, doesn't matter. Appreciate the support. We recently hit 50K. We're trying to keep on grinding, keep climbing. We have 2 channels. Please subscribe to both if you haven't quite yet. Turn notifications on. Those will be key. Follow that Twitter and check out that podcast. Any link that you need, description, comments, every single video. First terrible take this week from Jack Racklaw from Pro Football Opinions. Looks like an Instagram page. So this isn't Pro Football Opinions' opinion. They are pretty cool idea here, similar to what we did with the fan-voted playoffs recently. They are having people vote. They're following a vote on who wins each game each week, and that leaves them with a record. So they're through 10 weeks, it looks like, and we see the NFC standings. They did have AFC as well, but the NFC had some pretty terrible takes. So I guess this is a terrible take from the people. I guess the followers of Pro Football Opinions. And you see the first one that stands out. I mean, the Chicago Bears at 0-10. 0 wins through 10 weeks. Wow. I just don't see that happening. It's pretty bad. You know, it's really not about if you got better. I think the Bears, some people don't think the Bears got better. I think the Bears got better this offseason. I think it's quite clear they got better. But it's not just about that, It goes into the schedule, who you play. Anything can happen each week pretty much. But still, a team that, in my opinion, got better. They're not playing the first place schedule this year like they were last year. It's just very tough to see them at 0-10. So that was pretty terrible. The rest of the division, it's not terrible, but it looks like a lot of people are favoring the Vikings. Maybe there's a lot of Vikings fans following this account. Packers at 4. It's I guess it's kind of realistic, but it's a little out there when you combine the whole North there. What's going on? The terrible part being the Bears. You look at the East, looks okay. Yeah, you can argue things for sure. Pretty much anything that involves football, you can kind of debate both sides for the most part. But nothing terrible there. The South, maybe a little bold, not really. The Saints 9-0 and the Bucks 6-4. It's realistic still. The West gets a little out there. You got the Niners at 5-5, a complete team. Maybe they'll have a tougher time this year, but a very complete roster, very good team. Don't really see them at 5-5, but maybe it's not too out there. But at the same time of that, having the Rams at 7-2, so maybe we don't want to call that terrible. Maybe it's just pretty bold having the Niners at 5-5, Rams at 7-2. But it's a collection of people voting. So again, it's not this person. Pro Football Opinions doing a pretty cool thing here, and it's not their opinion that these will be their record. Just so we're clear. Next we got Adam Rank. I mean, he made some appearances last year, and I think that was the right move to have him make appearances on Terrible Take Tuesday last year because he was making some pretty terrible predictions. They ended up being pretty terrible. Now he's at it again. There's a lot. You can go check him out. He has a lot that are pretty out there. The Chargers being at 3-13 is very much out there, But on top of that, it's not just the record 3-13. Let's backtrack a little bit. What are my thoughts on the Chargers here? They got a really good defense. That defense alone will win them games. I'm kind of on the fence about making the playoffs or not because I don't really trust their offense. I don't really trust their offense play calling a whole bunch on top of that. Wasn't a big Herbert guy, especially for year one. Maybe they play Tyrod Taylor, who's an okay quarterback, solid quarterback, but do they have enough? Offensive line still needs work. Is there enough? That's kind of the question. But their defense, even though it's defense definitely still wins games, but it's more of an offense league. Their defense alone will win them games, and then they have 3-13. So that Adam Rank has 3-13. So that's pretty rough as it is. But what gets to me is the ginormous losing streak here. So you see week 1, week 2, week 3. So you got 6-game losing streak. They win 2. And then they go on another 6-game losing streak. It's a little out there. For sure. So I'm not gonna say there's no way it's possible they go 3-13. I don't think it happens. I really don't think it happens. But maybe they can somehow, it could be somewhat close. I just don't see these 2 6-game losing streaks. And again, I don't see the 3 wins either way. But happy Thunder fan. I am absolutely AV. Sent that this way. I have a very hard time reading people's Twitters, handles, whatever it is. I don't know. That's something I got to work on here. But we're moving on. We're getting better each week here. NFL offenses by position for the AFC West. This was sent by Colby Jacob Chasten. And we see basically 2 teams. There's 4 teams in each division. But they're going to go ahead and use 2 teams here. Let's go through them in order. Quarterback, the Chiefs win. For the AFC West, best quarterback, agree. We all can agree. Patrick Mahomes, running back. The Broncos, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon. We're all going to agree with that, I'm pretty sure. Receiver, Chiefs. Yeah, they've had a pretty speedy, good unit. You could argue the Broncos. What they did, you can argue. There's nothing wrong with this. Chiefs, most of us or some of us can agree. We also can agree that you can make the case for another team like the Denver Broncos there. Nothing wrong. We were the tight end. The Chiefs, I mean, they have one of the best in football in Travis Kelce. Do they have the best unit? I guess it's another debate, but there's nothing terrible. Now we hit to the offensive line. We get to the offensive line here, and this person's going to go with the Denver Broncos, who battle with the Chargers for the worst offensive line in that division. It's confusing why they chose the Broncos for that. It's pretty terrible. On top of that, because we know how much the Broncos struggled last year, I think the Broncos offensive line will play a good amount better this year. I think they will, but not that much better. It was bottom of the league, and then we're going to factor in. The Chiefs have one of the best offense lines in football. They struggled a little bit during the year last year. That was because of the injuries. And then once they were healthy, when it was crunch time, the playoffs, ridiculous. This is top-tier offensive line. And the Raiders, they're very much improving offensive line, and they're a very solid offensive line. Easily top 15. There's some people that probably even throw them around the 5 range. And you're going to throw the Broncos in here. So that was interesting. That's definitely an interesting one. Next, we got Colin Cowherd on the Herd. Got his own show. Used to listen to him on the radio way back, so I like him. He's got some bold takes. John Colin sent this my way here. Appreciate you. Colin's most talented quarterbacks. Now, people can take that most talented quarterbacks. I guess it's not really who are the best quarterbacks. I guess it might be a different question to some people because you might factor in who's on the team, how they'll play, because who they play, who's on their team. I think this is just who has the most talent, so it could be a little different. But he went ahead, and this person that sent it to me, John here, circled those 3 names. It looks like Cam Newton, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold. Yeah, I have to agree. Maybe it's just bold saying Josh Allen because the kid has the combination of arm strength and athletic ability, and on top of that, with his actually build, his actual build, his body, to combine that with all of that, it's pretty darn impressive, and the upside's there, and that's why he was drafted so high. So it's still a little out there to put him on here, but we'll let that one slide. Having Cam Newton, and I'm a huge Cam Newton fan. Before he was drafted, I said he was going to win. My bold take was he was going to win more than one MVP. We'll see if that happens. I got one at least, and now it's not looking like we're going to get the 2, but I was happy with the 1. I was a big Cam Newton fan, very high on him out of Auburn. But right now with the injury, with the situation, he's not on the team. It's pretty tough to put him in there. But Sam Darnold, I never understood the Sam Darnold hype. Again, I keep saying I'm not going to doubt the kid's future. He's got some upside, but he hasn't really done anything spectacular ever. He's kind of turned the ball over in some pretty crucial situations, in my opinion. So I just don't see how he can be one of the more talented. What is this, 10? We're talking these are the 10 most talented quarterbacks. I don't know. I just don't. No, I'm just going to say no. I'm going to say no on that. I don't know if this is an order. Yeah, Carson Wentz. It's hard to see Carson Wentz at 2. He is pretty darn talented, though. He's kind of just got to put it together here and be consistent. Murray's a little bold even itself. But yeah, those were some interesting takes there. Moving on. We got from Christopher Ferreira, NFL Offensive Tiers. Looks like possibly an Instagram account here, at least on leather. So yeah, it's a tier maker basically. The best, interesting title. Elite, above average, average, trash. So they're going getting a little bold there. They're going trash. They're throwing the trash label on these teams. Yeah, I don't know about that. Interesting. The Giants. I don't like for offenses. I don't like the Giants at all under trash. I mean, people know the Giants are a little bit of a messy situation the last few years. Organization, I should say. Yeah, I mean they're not going to be one of the better teams, but they could put up points. You maybe want to be a little more consistent, but they put up points. They put up points by the end of the day. So I just don't agree with them under trash. I mean, Joe Burrow with the Bengals. I mean, Joe Mixon in there, the weapons they have. I think they'll be better. I think they'll be much better this year. And these other teams, it's hard to call any of these teams trash. It really is. It really is. So not just those teams. The Patriots aren't going to be trash. We know they're not going to be trash. So that's interesting. Average, yeah, the first one, the Eagles, yeah, a little inconsistent last year, but it's very hard to put them at average, especially with 3 tiers above them. The Steelers really stands out. The Steelers with Big Ben, and I guess it's tough to say which Big Ben will show up, but throw Big Ben in there with the weapons they have. They did a pretty good job. They brought some more guys in too, looking at the draft as well. It's going to be much better than average, I think. I was predicting them to be a very top-tier offense last year. Big Ben got hurt, so that kind of understandably took away from that. So let's throw Big Ben back in there. It's tough to call even some of these other teams just average. We're throwing Stephon Diggs in there with the Bills. I think they'll be better than that. I mean, you can argue the other ones, but kind of pointing out which ones are terrible takes in my opinion. Anything above you kind of can argue. Having the Lions and the Panthers ahead of some of the teams below them is questionable. Having the Falcons with the elite label. The Packers, I think, offensively will be better this year. They were pretty rough last year, so it depends on what they're basing this off of. Maybe it's a little bold to put the Titans in there. I have no problem with though. I like the Titans. Ravens, Chiefs, Seahawks, Saints, Cowboys. You can argue all that. It's just the terrible ones are calling some of these teams trash. And a little low on a lot of teams, but a little low on the Steelers and the Eagles maybe specifically. Next one we got from Jack Vander Mersch. We got Chris Sims doing his quarterback rankings. Those are always kind of, I don't mind Chris Sims. I think he's got a pretty good voice, covering the NFL. But I don't really pay attention to his quarterback rankings because they're a little out there. But he ranks Stidham ahead of Tua, and his response to that, or why, his explanation was he's more talented than Tua. So Jarrett Stidham is more talented than Tua Tagovailoa. That's questionable. I was probably higher on Stidham than most people on the planet coming out of Auburn. But he just doesn't have as much, most certainly not more talent than Tua Tagovailoa. The only thing holding Tua back is the injury concern. It's really the only thing holding him back. I mean, he is that talented. So if you're going to have Stidham ahead of him, you would think the explanation would be look at the coaching staff he's with. He's on the Patriots. It's his second year. Maybe he learned quite a bit from Tom Brady. Tua might, the injury, it might affect him early on. So that would be the correct explanation if you have Stidham over Tua. Really the only ones that are valid in my opinion. So he went a different route though. So interesting from Chris Sims. From YZ80 here, we had a Pro Football Focus redraft of the first round here. So if the NFL started over, kept the same draft order as this NFL draft that just happened 2020, and just redraft. Everyone's rosters are clear. Nobody on their rosters. So interesting. They went quarterback crazy. And I understand quarterback's the most important position in football. So we got all quarterbacks. I'm trying to look at this again and make sure here. Yes, we got quarterbacks through pick 26. Only quarterbacks were drafted. 1 through 26 picks, quarterbacks. I disagree with that. I think there are other players at other positions that make more of an impact than a lot of these quarterbacks that are good enough to be picked in the top 10, but we'll ignore that. We'll just say it's a little bold. You also bring in the question, when ESPN did this, I questioned as well, is this for just 1 year or is this like franchise? When I'm drafting, I'm thinking this is for long term. So then you question guys like Matt Ryan being taken at 6, Drew Brees to be taken at 15, even Aaron Rodgers at 9. You question that a little bit. Cam Newton, there's 32 teams, 32 starting quarterbacks. Cam Newton is unsigned. He doesn't, those teams don't want him to be the starting quarterback. So why would he be the 20th pick? So I don't agree with that one either. But at some point, the draft is all about strategy. So at some point, we're in here. I mean, at first I look at, okay, maybe Drew Brees goes to the Broncos at 15. The team really doesn't matter. It's just the 15th pick to Drew Brees. After that, I'm the Falcons in this situation, whatever team it is. A lot of quarterbacks are gone. There's better overall players available. The quarterback I get here is not going to be that much of a difference in the second round because all the really good ones that make the difference, that are that much of a difference, are gone. So I would not, continue to go this route. And it goes deeper into, the Sam Darnold at 25, Dwayne Haskins at 26. Now, not doubting those guys' future, but come on now. I'm a big Chris Godwin guy. I don't know if I've ever seen someone improve like that. Just like that, I guess in terms of his all-around game, and I think, in terms of his build, his body, how in shape he is, everything looks so much improved for Chris Godwin last year. So I'm a big fan. It looks like Pro Football Focus might be the biggest fans of Chris Godwin. The first receiver off the board, the first player not a quarterback taken is Chris Godwin. Surprising, very surprising. And then you see a corner, a safety, a receiver, and then Aaron Donald comes off after those guys. Aaron Donald's probably going in the top 10. So this is this is pretty messy. This is pretty messy here. Pretty sloppy. I don't know. Maybe they're basing it on, I don't know what they're basing it on. Honestly, that's kind of my problem because they have their set grades that they're pretty firm on, and that's, they usually, when you would think they would kind of go in order of their grades, but they didn't go that route. So this got bold written all over it. And then we got one more, and this is a good one. This is a good one. Colton O'Shea, at Colton O'Shea. He found a gem here, a hidden gem. This looks like an Instagram account. F-Ball Takes, it'll be Football Takes, F-Ball Takes, the Instagram account. Top 7 QBs right now. Interesting choice going with 7 right off the bat. I like to point that out. Kirk Cousins, the number 4 quarterback right now. Kirk Cousins, the 4th best quarterback in the NFL. Number 4. Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. Keep in mind, Patrick Mahomes is not number 1. I really don't think it's a question. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. But some MVP caliber, elite caliber players, quarterbacks right there. Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. All right, it's kind of already terrible. We'll call it bold. Kirk Cousins, right after those guys. Right after those, Kirk Cousins. I'm not one of those. I think like half the world, the NFL world, just rips Kirk Cousins, like just hates him or thinks he's terrible, and half is like, all right, everybody relax a little bit. He's a solid quarterback. Maybe he's getting better now. I'm not one of those first. I'm not one of the half that just rips Kirk Cousins. So keep that in mind. But to have him at 4 is quite ridiculous. Deshaun Watson at 5. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I think him and Kirk Cousins are pretty much in the same boat in terms of talent. Pretty similar quarterbacks on top of it. To have Garoppolo at 6 is pretty ridiculous. So yeah, this was something. This was something. Not having Mahomes at 1, having him at 3 on top of that, having Kirk Cousins at 4, and Garoppolo at 6. And kind of just ranking 7 in general, I don't know if I've seen that, but yeah, that was an interesting one. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that one. All of these, if you want to include a take you found and get a shout out, in next week's episode and maybe the week after, go to our Twitter, follow that Twitter, and go ahead and tweet at me or DM me, whatever you're feeling there. We got plenty of NFL coverage, predictions, rankings, full coverage in season. We got you covered. Please subscribe to both channels. Smash that like button. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.